Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to join this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through the call, bottom line the information for you. We know you're busy people. You have a lot going on, and so we like to move quickly. We have a standard format. We spend just a few minutes talking about the reinstitution and eventual revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, which we continue to believe is the base currency for the reval of all these other currencies. A few minutes talking about the program we've put in place to assist you, and then go to a brief Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. Talk a little bit about what's going on in Iraq. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of these currencies. We are not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. The first relevant issue would be a potential window for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. I'm going to kind of double down on some of the things I discussed last week. Best case scenario from our perspective is the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in the next 60 to 90 days. Worst case scenario would be to push this all to wait to January of 2020. Of course, we don't want to see that, but that is a possibility, and we have to recognize that. There are two areas I want to discuss with regard to Iraq. One's their political arena, and the other is the financial. Politically, there are some things going on. There is a parliamentary session scheduled for April 20th. It seems that there is agreement with the Interior Minister in order to form the Mahdi government, but there are still some issues having to do with the Ministers of Defense, Education, and Justice. So we still have a ways to go before the formation of the new government. The Sadrists have basically given Mahdi until the end of June for the formation of the new government. At that point, all bets are off, and there may be a vote of no confidence. The Sadrists have also expressed some interest in bringing a body back if that were in fact to happen. The Inspector General of Interior has announced officially that there is a 90-day war on corruption having to do with corrupt officials, with corruption and embezzlement with regard to the auctions and money laundering. So they do seem to understand that they need to get their house in order to proceed. Financially, there are some things going on too. The CBI has released funds to pay a rolling quarterly debts, primarily salaries. Now, as I've said last week, because they've had to release funds at the 1180 rate, it's going to be difficult for them to reinstitute without recalibrating the entire budget, the 2019 budget. They certainly are willing to do that if they feel everything else is in place. One of the things that points to the possibility of a reinstatement in the next 60 to 90 days is that the CBI is also withholding indefinitely major tranches and disbursements for investment and reconstruction, and those are major expenses. So the fact that they're trying to cover their rolling monthly bills but not looking at the extraordinary expenses of reconstruction, to my mind, means that they're willing to attempt the reinstitution in the next 60 to 90 days, and of course that's what we want to see. The CBI has also officially reestablished their practice of transparency so that all of the transactions are known, clear, well understood, again pointing to their intention, their desire to reinstitute in the next 60 to 90 days. So this is brief, but I want to keep it to the point. There are basically three issues, in my view, that are causing the delay in the reinstitution of the dinar. The first is obviously the formation of the new government, and they have until the end of June to reconcile that. The second is the rampant corruption that still exists, and the new 90-day war on corruption hopefully will address that issue. And third is the continued Iranian interference into the internal affairs of Iraq having to do, of course, with the Revolutionary Guard militias, which the United States has now designated as a terrorist organization, and there are American troops in country there, so if necessary, there may be some fireworks there. Also, the Iranian attempts to circumvent the sanctions by dealing with Iraq using U.S. dollars, that supposedly is going to be drying up. And lastly, the Iranians' desire to postpone the new government, which would in turn postpone the reinstatement of the Iraqi dinar, which would in turn leave the rate at 11.80. And the dinar at a rate of 11.80 versus, say, $3 is much better in terms of trade between Iran and Iraq. So these are the issues that are holding things up. There is a pathway to get this done and see a reinstitution in the next 60 to 90 days. But if that does not occur, we're probably looking at something extended all the way out to January of 2020. I know that's not particularly good news, but again, there is a distinct possibility that we can get all of this done and get the reinstitution of the dinar in the next 60 to 90 days. That being the case, that does leave enough time for individuals to get their affairs in order prior to the reinstitution and revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Many individuals may not even be aware of what that entails in terms of getting your affairs in order. For those individuals that understand that this is a really financially a cataclysmic event for individuals, and you don't want to get caught unprepared. To that end, Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It's a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts and the assignment of your pre-valued currencies on paper to that trust package. Phase 2 involves all the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which would be the establishment of your package of pre-RV asset protection trusts, and again, the assignment of those currencies on paper to that trust package. Very simply, a trust is a legal instrument one can establish to hold, to manage, and to protect assets. There are a number of entities out there that provide some asset protection. For example, individuals can establish LLCs and sub-S corporations. They do provide some asset protection and do segregate business property from personal property. However, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations may be pierced in terms of process for civil litigation. So these particular vehicles might be good business vehicles, but they're not the best asset protection vehicles. Then there are trusts referred to as revocable trusts. A revocable trust is established primarily in order to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate, but revocable trusts do not provide any privacy or asset protection, so they would be inappropriate for our situation. Then we get to the realm of the irrevocable trusts. Now, there are some trust products out there that are being marketed. The constitutional trust, the pure trust, the non-grantor trusts, all of these trusts have been flagged by the IRS, so you do not want to get involved in one of those trusts. There are a number of irrevocable trusts out there that are single trusts, not packages of trusts. The weakness and vulnerability of the single irrevocable trust is that because all assets are housed in one legal entity, should any one of those assets within that trust get involved in civil litigation, because that trust also owns other property, that other property can be dragged into civil litigation. So the individual irrevocable trust is not an appropriate vehicle either. The best product is the package of irrevocable trusts for the reasons that I'm going to review with you here this afternoon. First, by establishing your package of irrevocable trusts, and assigning your currencies on paper to that trust product, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets held within this package are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust product, this package, and assigning your currencies on paper to this trust, you have successfully transferred the taxable event of the revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, that's important for several reasons. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will most likely spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming, it would be frustrating, and frankly, it would cost you more than an asset protection trust. On the other hand, if your trust is in place and your currencies are assigned to that trust pre-RV, there's less than a 10% chance of an audit if the taxable event occurs within the trust. But most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. Third, you're going to need to gift currencies prior to their revaluation. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies prior to the revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange, that can be done outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals, family and friends, the post-RV lump sum, you can gift to them through our specifically designed gift subtrust. By gifting through this subtrust, their currencies, their USD, would be protected along with yours. The language of this subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can gift to these individuals the exact US dollar amount you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. And again, because you're gifting through the specially designed gift subtrust, which is part of our package, you will be able to manage, to invest, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase $5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now, this estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with the probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government would assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $12 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that same estate of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits, one pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from above. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to pursue civil litigation. Second, and most importantly, once the prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the property at the time you transferred it to the trust, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets, and this is how it would work. Once again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to our trust. They revalue for $25 million, and now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. Now, why is this an important legal strategy in terms of asset protection? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you, but remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is important. All of your other assets are safely protected in other subtrusts. Now, why are those assets protected? They're protected because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue a separate legal entity. So your package of trusts work very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your package of asset protection trusts prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in Phase 2, post-RV, all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you. Now, I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trusts post-RV. Many of our existing clients have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is through the transfer of funds directly from your pre-RV asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialists there. Our offshore specialists will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate future taxes on the reinvestment of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of financials, out of the banks, and at work in other markets as quickly as possible. Lastly, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-based currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial portion of your net worth in tangible assets as well. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned currencies pre-RV, your U.S. dollar in bank account and investment accounts post-RV, and will also manage the other accounts. You will also have one optional gift subtrust if you wish to gift currencies to family and friends, which subtrust can be converted to a standard subtrust at any time, and then 8 additional subtrusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But some years ago, when we decided to work with denarians, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable for many. So by simply assigning currencies to the trust pre-RV and postponing all other work post-RV, we've been able to reduce the cost of the trust to $3,000. There are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. With this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for establishing their trust package pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your credit card would actually be less than the $100 a month you'd pay us under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust package in place for all of the reasons that I've stated here. Now, we will be going to the Q&A in just a moment, but before we do, and for the benefit of our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in these areas, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade now in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so, they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Based on our system of civil litigation, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And it's invariably at precisely those times in life that you need and want control that you've lost it. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through family and friends things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death, and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are, of course, substantial investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of your package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Again, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to the call. We're going to the Q&A in just a moment. If you're a newer caller or haven't taken advantage of our offer, if the things we've discussed here are of interest, I suggest you have a pencil and paper handy because we will give you our contact information. We'll be happy to send you our initial no-obligation package. It has a lot of information about us, about the revaluation, about trusts in general. The package includes everything you need should you personally decide to proceed and establish a trust. You can review the information. If you have any questions, you can contact us by phone or email. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. There will be no consultation fee. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A now. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We take no service calls on the Q&A. This time is reserved for people that have general questions about Trusts Unlimited. And second, for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC at gmail.com. Our our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC at gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last digit. Rather than dialing 4, you'll dial 3, and then use the same access code, which is 739-394-pound. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be in our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out periodically pre-RV, but post-RV emails may go out as often as daily. So let's go to our Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 312. That's got to be Les, 312. What's up, Les?
Hey, good afternoon, Jim. How's it going today?
Yes, sir. Pretty good. Can't complain.
Great. I got some news that the lower denoms were trickling out in Iraq, and that the contractors were paid at the new rate. Have you heard or gotten any news regarding any or both of those?
I had a phone call with some people in Iraq about 36 hours ago, thereabouts. They did not mention that to me, but I will be talking to some folks probably tomorrow. It's a little too late to get anyone today, but I'll probably be contacting people first thing in the morning tomorrow. Remember, they're 8 hours ahead of us. And I'm sure if this is the case, that'll come up. I have not heard that myself, but we've had a lot of rumors come along that haven't panned out, so it may or may not be true. I can't comment on it, but that's, of course, if that's in fact the case, I'll know about it when I make my call in the morning.
Okay. Now, have you heard that you did hear, but were they definite on this interior person that's chosen?
They seem to have agreement on that person, but they still have some other. That's the most important position, though, I think. That and they're all important, but that one is the one where there was a lot of the Kurds were upset. There was a lot of issues there. So if they get through that one, I think the other dominoes will probably fall. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now, fortunately, although we want to get this done and wrapped up as soon as possible, Mahdi has until the end of June to get things done. What he might end up doing if they are loggerheads is agree to appoint interim people for 90 days to get them through that deadline, and then, that'll give them another 90 days to that's kind of the way they do things there. It's really ad hoc, so we'll just have to see what happens. But I think Mahdi will relent and basically go with whomever they want if he's looking at a no confidence vote.
Okay. All right.
We'll just have to see. I'm hopeful that we can get this wrapped up in the next 60 to 90 days.
Okay. I know one time a month ago or so ago, he said that he was going to choose if they didn't choose, and that he had the authority to choose one, and they had to take it, whether they liked it or not. Is that the case still?
I don't believe so. And remember, if the Sadras coalition, if in other words, if he just jams somebody in there, they're just going to either ignore that person, do what they want, or they might have a no confidence vote. So, and all of a sudden, the Sadras are talking about the possibility of bringing a body back. So, it's sort of like they're playing chicken with each other. So we'll just have to see how this plays out. But I'll be shocked if they don't get all this resolved by the end of June. They got plenty of time to do it. I'd like to see it long, much before that. But what have they got, 60 days to get this done, or 70 days? So I can't see him not getting it done. That's why I'm looking at 60 to 90-day window right now as a possibility.
Okay. All right. Well, say hi to the professor, and thanks for taking my call again.
Yes,
all
sir.
Right.
Take care, Alex. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, our next caller is area code 717. That's 717. Go ahead.
Hello, Jim.
Yes.
This is Barton.
Yes,
How are
sir.
you doing?
Fine. Yourself?
I'm doing fine. I have
That's
one
good,
question.
Sir.
Can
Sure.
I get trust set up without internet service?
No, I'm afraid you can't. And the reason being is we have clients on 7 continents, and the paperwork's rather voluminous. It would be completely impractical for us to try to function. Now, there are you can go to a friend, you can go to a library, you can go to a Kinko's. There's a lot of places where you can go where you can get access to a computer, and I would strongly suggest you do that. I wish, we could go back to the old clipboard days, but those days are bygone, and much of the pricing and the services that we do are based on the fact that it's much less expensive to do things via email than to try to do things through a stale mail with hard copies, and just the trust alone with all of the ancillary documents would be well over 200 pages, and there's no way we can print 200 pages and mail it all over the planet. It would be time and cost prohibitive. So unfortunately, I wish I could give you a better answer, but we're kind of locked into to email and the internet as our only way of doing business from a practical standpoint.
Okay, thank you. You have a good day.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Barton was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to our call. Again, if the information has been interesting and informative, I hope you will contact us, get our initial package. There's a lot more information for you to digest in the package. And again, you're not under any obligation whatsoever. We will send you everything you need if you wish to proceed, but that decision is entirely yours. Now, our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Obviously, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Bye-bye, everyone, and have a great week.